Welcome to Before You Say I Do, where we have those conversations that you need to have before walking down the aisle. My name is Chris Carter, and if you're watching, this is Citi TV, and if you're listening, it's 97.3 Citi FM. Today, we are going to be touching on a topic that it's very, very, very important to couples, and it is a topic that it's not often openly discussed. And we'll go on a quick break, and when I come back, I will be introducing the topic and the guest. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Before You Say I Do. And like I said before, today we're going to be having a conversation that is not often openly spoken about, especially between couples. But these are the realities of marriage. You never know what is in front of you. So if you are engaged or planning a future with someone, I think you should sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation. Today, we are going to be talking about the realities of infertility. The realities of infertility. And in the studio with me is Dr. Promise Sefoga, a consultant, an obstetrician, gynecologist, and fertility specialist at the Shape Healthcare Specialist Medical Center, and he's also a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Medical School. Hello, Doc.
Hello, Chris.
How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
The realities of infertility.
Yeah.
Right. So what are some of the misconceptions of infertility?
Yeah, I like how you're starting because, you know, infertility basically refers to a couple not being able to conceive after they've been together and had a regular sexual and protected intimacy for up to, say, a year.
A year.
Right.
Okay.
But if the woman in that couple is 35 years or more, then after 6 months, if they haven't conceived, then there is infertility. I mean, that's just important because the woman doesn't have a lot of time if she's already 35 years. So you don't need to wait for up to a year before you start investigating and then dealing with it. Okay. Now, the biggest misconception is that society in our part of the world thinks every couple having infertility has got to do with the woman. Yeah, unfortunately so. And it's as though we confer some kind of a cultural diplomatic immunity on the men, you know. But as a matter of fact, the problem of infertility is approximately half problem of men, half problem of women.
It's a 50-50
50-50. And in some research we even did recently, we are finding it tilting even more towards the side of men. Yes. And so it's a big misconception to think that any issue or every issue of infertility has to do with just the woman.
Right. So how can discussing the possibility of infertility help couples navigate the challenges, if they ever meet the challenges?
You know how it is said that knowledge is power, isn't it? So you need to know. You need to know what it even means. Because like I said, so if you knew that, okay, you have heard once we say on this show that if you're together for a year without conceiving means there's most likely a problem, then you take the initial steps to get investigated. It also helps you to know that, okay, even though we are diagnosed of infertility, there are ways of getting around it. It doesn't mean you've come to the end of the road and life should be shattered. No. There are ways of solving problems with infertility. No matter what the causes, there are solutions for every problem with infertility. So it's important to know as a first step.
Right. So talking about knowing, what are some of the common causes of infertility?
Okay, so largely we group them as causes that are exclusively to the woman, those that are exclusively to the man, and those that are for both. And there are a small percentage that we don't even know the causes at all. So if you take 100 couples with infertility, 30% is exclusively a woman's issue. 30% is exclusively the man. 30% is combined. 10% we don't know.
Unknown.
Right. Okay. So in terms of the woman, what happens is the woman to be fertile means that I'm going to show you this.
Right.
To be fertile means that the woman has eggs in the ovary.
In the ovary.
Okay. The ovary contains the eggs, and the woman is born as a baby girl with a set number of eggs. At the birth, the baby girl has about 2 million eggs.
That's a lot of eggs.
Yes, a lot. As she's growing up until puberty, a lot of it would die off, right? So when she gets to puberty at the time of her first menstrual flow, she's got about 500,000 left.
Right.
And that is supposed to take her through the reproductive life. And of that 500,000, every month, about 10 to 15 would be recruited. Out of that, one would develop and beget and becomes released, what we call ovulation.
Right.
The remaining 14 or so will die off.
Die off.
Next month, another 10 to 15 will start. So this month she ovulates here, next month from there, and it goes on.
So it just goes on and on,
Right.
and on and on.
Which is why, as a woman is growing, the egg reserves are reducing because she's losing them. She's not making more. Okay? So the egg is released, and when the egg is released from the ovary, it travels down the tube. And this is a tube.
The fallopian tube.
The fallopian tube, okay? So along that journey, when the woman has unprotected sex, the sperm is usually released here. So the sperm again needs, we'll talk about it, it needs to be plenty, a particular quantity, be able to swim so that when it's released here, they can swim up all the way through the uterus, the womb, find a way, it gets attracted to where the egg is. It meets up with the egg to fertilize it, and that forms the, what we call embryo.
Yeah.
That embryo travels down
and then comes to the
settles
middle.
here,
Yeah.
and develops into a baby. 9 months, we welcome baby Chris. You know?
Right.
So that is what it is. So in majority of women in this part of the world, the problem is with the tube. So the tubes are blocked. And so the egg is released all right, but it doesn't get to come this way for the sperm to meet it.
Right.
So if you take about 10 women who have infertility that we know is the woman problem, 6 of them, the problem is from the tubes.
So with that, when there are problems with the tubes, you actually get your normal period.
Yes, you get your flow because the menstruation comes from here. The inside here is always prepared to receive a fertilized egg every month. And if no egg is fertilized for it to be implanted, the preparation sheds off, and that's what you see as the period. Right. Okay. So the tubes are blocked, but you're still able to get your period without
Are
any
there any
problem.
causes of what blocks the tubes?
The commonest cause is infection, past infections. And that is when the issue of women having previous unsafe pregnancy termination, okay? Or women just have what we call pelvic infections. That
PID?
PID, in about half of the women who have PID, they may not have any symptoms to know. And then the infection goes on and damages the tubes. She's not aware, especially if she's someone who doesn't do regular checks with a gynae. And then just in the future, trying to get pregnant, and we realize, oh, we have a problem.
Wow.
You know, or previous surgeries, like sometimes when some women have procedures that involve scratching the inside of the womb, that also can affect the inside lining of the womb. And the biggest one is also fibroids. The fibroids can affect the womb. It can be in the inner part,
or
within the wall, or outside. And depending on where they are, they also contribute. Okay? And then some women as well, the problem is from the ovary. They don't ovulate. Okay? And the woman who doesn't ovulate, they tend to have what we call polycystic ovarian syndrome.
PCOS?
PCOS, right? Where, like I said, you need to have a number of eggs start developing. One of them needs to develop and then ovulate. In PCOS, all of them try to develop, and none of them really gets to the size that will release the egg. And as a result, the changes that should happen after the release of the egg, those changes do not happen.
So sometimes they don't have periods.
Thank you. They don't have the periods. and then the ovaries tend to produce a lot more of male hormones. So the woman with PCOS will tend to have slightly higher levels of testosterone, and so they tend to develop acne, facial hair, hair in the chest, hairy legs and arms, and then skin thickness, and they tend to be a little obese. And these are the problems that need to be detected. There's solution.
So what about the men?
In the case of the men, fertility in men revolves around the semen. Okay, and the semen is produced by the testes, right? So if you look at the man, the testes are located outside of the body, and the reason is that they need to operate at a temperature below that of the body's temperature. And so if the man does some kind of engagement which exposes them to a lot of heat, that heat affects the ability of the testes to make the sperms. Okay, and as a result of other lifestyle problems, alcohol, smoking, or like I said, some work-related heat exposure or radiation exposure, then the sperm production is impaired. So the sperms come and they are either too few, or the numbers are good but they are not able to swim as well, or they are swimming all right but they are too many that have abnormalities that they cannot fertilize the egg by themselves.
Right. So you talked about you know, drinking and smoking. Are there other lifestyle factors that can affect fertility?
Yes.
For both men and women?
Yeah. So stress in general, stress for everybody, stress is not a good thing. So the stress affects the woman's hormones. It can disrupt your cycles. Ovulation makes your infertility worse. In case of the men too, the same thing. The same way the stress can affect your blood pressure, your blood sugars, and this can also have negative impact on your reproductive life. The stress will not even make you happy enough to have any good quality intimacy, let alone having a conception.
You know, I never thought that, you know, stress would actually affect your body in that way until I experienced it.
Oh, you did?
It actually, I was going through some serious stressful period at that time. It was, you know, some family matters, dad was sick, so it was taking a toll on me. And I realized that month, like, my period, it skipped.
Delayed, yes.
I was like, what? I was like, what, am I becoming married? Did something happen and I didn't realize it? You understand? Am I going to have a baby out of nowhere? So I had to go to the hospital for them to explain that, look, it's stress.
It's stress,
and this is extreme, so you have to actually work on yourself.
Stress, sudden weight gain, sudden weight loss, sometimes changing environment, you know, you
so when you say weight gain, weight loss?
Yes, they are both extremes. They can affect your menstrual cycles.
So now, as a woman, what's the perfect weight for us?
So it's like the ideal is we calculate your weight based on your height. So we call it BMI.
The BMI.
Yes. So you need to have a BMI which is healthy. Between 20, 28 is considered good. So anything beyond that.
Aisha. Wow. So now, what are some of the steps couples have to take to access fertility hospitals when they realize that, okay, you know what, I think it's time for us to see someone?
Yes. So the first thing is to know what to expect. And like we're saying, if then you are together and it's not happening, then there's a cause to check. And so, and it's always important that the couple would seek care together, you know, because typically you see the men staying back and pushing the woman.
Check yourself.
But that doesn't help. It's good because when you come together, we explain these things to you together. And then we check both of you. We let the woman go through some labs, do a scan, check your tubes, check the uterus. The man also check your testes, check your semen. And then wherever we find a problem, sometimes you find a problem here, you find it here. And then we all work together.
Wow. Sometimes it's even both.
It's both, yes. Sometimes it's just the man, you know, and sometimes just the woman. And so it's good they come together, show that commitment. Then we discover the problem together. And there's always a solution.
Right. Okay. All right, so talking about solution, let's just take one solution to take a breather, and that will be a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Before You Say I Do, and we're having a conversation on the realities of infertility, and we actually ended up by, talking about solutions that can be available for infertility. So once the couple is diagnosed, what are some of these solutions that are available to couples? So
let's talk about a woman first. Women first.
Ladies first.
Yes,
yeah.
ladies first. So in the case of the woman, assuming the problem has to do with the tubes, now we have that capacity to unblock it sometimes. Okay, so like I said, the tubal factor is the predominant cause, and so once we detect it, then we take the next step to flush it open.
Right.
And majority of them, that ends it. In the next 2 to 3 months, they get pregnant.
Right.
Okay.
And how long does this procedure take?
It was a short 10 minutes maximum procedure.
Right. And
right.
is it something that could have been seen before the whole let's get pregnant thing?
If there's a reason to check that, yes, but there's no point to get, as far as fertility is concerned, just know what to expect, so that if you are together and you try for 1 year and it hasn't happened, then you step forward. Right. Because the thing is, things do change. Yeah. We could check today, everything is okay. The next few months, something has changed.
Oh, gosh.
And so just get going and just see. In the case of the tubal blockage that we tried the unblocking or flashing open, that it does not work, it means those tubes cannot help us to get pregnant. In that case, we have to consider a way of achieving a pregnancy without the use of the tubes. And that is what brings us to what we call the in vitro fertilization. I'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if it's a problem with ovulation, it means the woman is not releasing the eggs. And so, is it because she's overweight? Is it because of some hormonal disruptions or hormonal imbalance? Then there are medications to control or restore the hormones, supplements to improve that, and then she begins to ovulate. Sometimes with the help of medication or some injections, she's able to ovulate. Sometimes it's about losing weight, because sometimes being overweight or obese affects your ability to ovulate. And if you're able to ovulate and get pregnant, it also makes you at higher risk of losing the pregnancy.
So it becomes a high-risk pregnancy?
Yes. If you don't lose the pregnancy, there's a high tendency of the pregnancy being complicated with diabetes or hypertension, or called preeclampsia or eclampsia. So healthy weight is extremely important across the entire journey of fertility, conception, pregnancy, delivery, and even after.
Wow. That means being overweight causes a lot of problems.
It does, a lot of problem for all of us. Right.
Okay.
Then, if it's a matter of the weight management that is done and still the pregnancy is not happening, then we go to the next step. Maybe there's the need for some injections, or there may be the need for taking the sperm, getting sure the woman has eggs. When the eggs are about to release, then we take the sperm and introduce it inside to go fertilize the egg, what we call intrauterine insemination.
So that one is just done at the hospital?
Yes, at the hospital. You've taken the medication. When we see that the eggs are ready, then we take the sperm, process it, concentrate it, and then we inject the sperm right into the womb. And so we have shortened the journey the sperms will make in order to go fertilize the eggs. If that doesn't work, then we go up to the in vitro fertilization. Sometimes, if the problem we have detected has to do with uterine fibroids, then we plan the surgery to remove the fibroids, allow the uterus to heal about 3-4 months, then it is well healed before it carries pregnancy, then it can expand
so you
safely.
just don't start getting pregnant right after your surgery?
No, we need to allow the uterus to heal, because mind you, the uterus is about the size of your fist. When you get pregnant, it's going to expand. So after surgery, there are scars on the uterus. So it needs to heal and be strong enough before to make the pregnancy safer. Now, if the tubes are blocked, we're not able to unblock it, then the problem of in vitro becomes the main solution. How it's done is that we put a woman on medication so that she develops multiple eggs in the 2 ovaries at the same time. And that involves the use of injections that she'll take daily for about 12, 13, 14 days. And when the eggs are ready, then we remove them, we harvest them, and obtain the man's sperm to fertilize them. So that forms the embryos. We allow them to grow for a few days, because some may not form well naturally. They are the bad ones. So you allow what we call natural selection. So the perfect ones, they do survive till about the 5th day. Then we take 1 or 2 of that and put inside the uterus. That is in vitro fertilization.
That's the IVF.
That's IVF. Sometimes the problem is from the man. Like we said, nearly half of all cases, if not more, is related to the man. It's a matter of the sperm. The count may be too low. Sometimes just some medications would improve that. Sometimes the count is okay, but the movement is down. The sperm is supposed to be able to move, swim in a straight line. So we know that when they are released, they'll be able to swim up and go fertilize the egg. If the movement is so slow, we use medications to improve that. Sometimes some men have a problem where you see some of the veins we have, they have too much of the vein around the testes. And the veins have a lot of blood.
So like varicose?
Varicocele, right?
Varicocele.
So that makes the temperature a little too high around the sperms. So if we find that that is likely the cause of the testes not making enough sperm, then we're able to do some minor surgery to fix those, clamp off those plenty veins.
Do you take it off?
As a minor, we just clip it off.
Oh, okay.
And then that solves the problem. We give them time to see if the sperm parameters would improve and the pregnancy happens.
Right. So now after all this procedure, and let's say everything fails, what are your thoughts on adoption and surrogacy?
Yes. So adoption is always an option, like you said, when everything has failed, or for one reason or the other, the couple is not able to afford some of the advanced forms of infertility treatment. And sometimes it becomes the only option, especially when the woman is advanced in age, so she doesn't have the benefits of a good egg reserve. Which is why we are saying that if the woman is growing and thinks she's getting close to 35, but doesn't see herself either settling soon to have her babies, let's freeze the eggs. Fertility preservation. So we develop the eggs, harvest them, and we freeze them so they are there. Once they are frozen, they don't develop again. And so they are there for you to finish waiting for Mr. Right or accomplishing all your academic or career goals. When you are ready, you have frozen, fresh, young eggs that can give you healthy pregnancy. In the absence of that, then adoption is also available. Some people are able to have us use what we call donor eggs, because if the woman does not have enough eggs and she's open to that, then we get a much younger person. Because a woman's eggs are of the best quality when she's between 20 to 30 years. So then we get a match donor who would have gone through the medical screening checks. Once she matches your profile, then she goes through the medications. When her eggs are ready, we take it, then use your husband's sperm to fertilize them, and then you carry it.
Okay, so now when all this is happening, a lot of times we know that there's a lot of stress on the couple.
True.
So how do they actually support themselves emotionally and psychologically?
Yeah, and that's very important, because the couple that is unable to conceive, they go through a lot of psychological distress, a lot. And unfortunately, the women tend to suffer this a lot more, because like we said, the misconception of everybody thinking that it's a woman's problem. And so they point fingers at the woman, they gossip behind her, they say all sorts of things, the in-laws, people in church, people in the community, they make all sorts of comments, you know. And so the woman who's having difficulty conceiving, already suffering from the distress of not being able to conceive, also being punished by how society handles them. And so the idea is for us to let everybody know that when the couple is having a hard time conceiving, it is not necessarily the woman's problem. it could just be the man's problem. But this woman cannot come telling you that the problem is my husband,
yes,
or point the fingers
a lot
at
of
him.
women don't do
They
that.
can't do that. And so they are suffering already, and that's enough. Let's not make things even worse for them. Let's understand. In any case, there are some places where we have voluntary childlessness, where the couple decides that, no, we want to just be by ourselves, not ready to have babies yet. So you don't even know if that's their decision. And you stress them, asking them questions, provoking them, and so that is not helpful. As a result of that, when we find a couple has infertility, we provide for psychological counseling sessions for them. So as we go through the therapy and the treatment to conceive, then the clinical psychologist also assisting them just so they can cope a little better. But it is true, infertility goes with a lot of significant psychological trauma and distress.
Right. So do you have any final words for or advice to any couple that might be going through this right now?
So, couple going through infertility, there is solution. No matter how the problem, there is always a solution. It's a matter of you stepping forward. We figure out what is the cause in your case, and then we agree together which of the solutions would best solve your problem. There is no point to suffer in silence and go through all the emotional, psychological distress, develop high blood pressure, and some get so severe they commit suicide, and that shouldn't be. There is solution. Just step forward.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Promise
You're
Sefoga,
welcome.
who is a consultant, obstetrician, gynecologist, and fertility specialist at the SHAPE Healthcare Specialist Medical Center. And he's also a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Medical School. If you want to reach out to him, all you need to do is call the SHAPE Healthcare Specialist Medical Center, and you can probably be connected to him. And the number to call is 0302-631-880. So we've been having, we just had this wonderful conversation on the realities of infertility, and I'm sure it will help people that are trying to, walk down the aisle, because like I said, you can walk down the aisle and the whole ceremony, and you never know what the future holds. So it's all about preparing your mind for anything that can happen. And remember to speak out. You need to speak to someone. Don't suffer it alone. Try to talk to someone, because like he said, there are solutions out there. This has been Before You Say I Do, and my name is Chris Carter.